Close your eyes, if you'd like, and let the world slip away for a moment. Imagine yourself settling into a quiet, comfortable space, where the only sound is the gentle hum of a story, unfolding a story not meant to thrill or startle, but to guide you softly into the past, to a place where history whispers rather than shouts. Tonight, we're traveling to the Korean peninsula to the early 1950s, where a war unfolded in the shadow of a divided world. This is not a tale of heroes or villains, but of ordinary lives caught in extraordinary times, of cold winds and weary hearts, of a conflict that shaped a peninsula and left echoes that linger still. This is boring history for sleep, and our journey will carry us through the frozen trenches of the 38th parallel, through the forgotten moments of a war that drew in nations, through the mysteries buried in a demilitarized zone, and into the contrasting lives of two cities divided by ideology but bound by shared roots. Each segment will unfold slowly, rich with the textures of the past, inviting you to listen, to drift, or perhaps to dream. Let's begin, not with a rush, but with a quiet step into a winter's night in 1950, where the air is sharp, the ground is hard, and survival is a daily act of endurance. Imagine yourself waking to a world of unrelenting cold, the kind that seeps into your bones, sharp as a blade, numbing your fingers before you've even opened your eyes. You're crouched in a shallow trench along the 38th parallel, the line that divides north from south. Korea in the winter of 1950-1951. A soldier, perhaps South Korean, perhaps American. Perhaps one of the many drawn into this frozen conflict from distant lands. The air bites at your face, carrying the faint, acrid scent of gunpowder and the earthy tang of frozen mud. The wind howls above, a constant moan that blends with the distant crack of artillery, a sound as familiar as your own heartbeat, never ceasing, never relenting. This is not a tale of heroism or glory, but of the quiet, grinding rhythm of survival, of ordinary men enduring extraordinary hardship, their lives defined by the struggle to make it through one more day. Your day begins before dawn, not by choice but because sleep is a fleeting guest in this place. The blanket draped over you, thin and crusted with dirt, offers little warmth against the sub-zero chill, the temperature plunging to 20 degrees below freezing. Though you have no thermometer to confirm it, you feel it in the way your breath forms clouds that linger, in the way your boots creak against the snow-packed ground, in the way your hands, stiff and clumsy, fumble with the strap of your rifle. The rifle, perhaps an M1 Garand for an American, or a Mosin Nagant for a Chinese volunteer, feels like a block of ice, its metal biting your skin, its bolts sometimes frozen shut until you breathe on it, coaxing it back to life with the faint warmth of your breath. The trench is your world, a narrow gash in the earth, barely 3 feet deep, its walls lined with sandbags that have hardened into lumps of ice, their surfaces slick and unyielding. You share this cramped space with a handful of others, their faces half hidden by scarves or frost-covered beards, their eyes weary but alert. There's no room to stand upright, so you crouch or sit, your knees drawn close, your body curled to conserve what little heat you have. The ground is a mix of frozen mud and snow, every movement stirring a faint crunch that mingles with the distant rumble of shells, a sound that punctuates the silence like a metronome. You try to recall warmth, the memory of a fire or a hot meal, but such thoughts are distant. Like stars obscured by the heavy clouds above, your stomach aches are dull. Persistent hunger that has become as familiar as the cold. Breakfast, if you're lucky, is a can of sea rations, its contents beans, stew, or some unidentifiable mix congealed into a cold, greasy mass you eat with a spoon tucked inside your coat, kept close to your chest to prevent it from freezing to the ground, each bite a mechanical act, tasteless but necessary. Supplies are scarce, the roads clogged with snow or blocked by enemy fire, and when a truck does arrive, it brings only a few ration packs, meant to last a day but stretched over 2 or 3. The chocolate bar inside is a small treasure, but it's so hard you must break it with a knife, its pieces crumbling like chalk in your mouth. If you're a South Korean soldier, You might receive a ball of rice wrapped in cloth, a rare gift from a nearby village. Its grains cold but precious, a reminder of a life beyond the trench. Water is another challenge, your canteen often frozen solid, forcing you to tuck it inside your jacket against your skin to keep it liquid. Even then, it's barely enough. A few sips to wet your throat, the taste metallic from the canteen's rim. The cold shapes every moment, every thought, every action, a relentless force that tests your endurance. Your feet suffer most, wrapped in boots never meant for this winter. Their leather cracked and soaked from trudging through snow. You've stuffed them with rags, newspaper or dried grass, but the damp seeps in, turning your toes to stone. Frostbite is a constant shadow, and you've seen men peel off their socks to reveal skin that's red, then grey, then black, the smell of decay lingering in the air, mixing with the scent of unwashed bodies and damp earth. You check your feet when you can, rubbing them with hands barely warmer, hoping to coax feeling back into them. Medics are rare, their supplies dwindling, and a cut from a jagged sandbag or a splintered crate can turn septic in days. Antibiotics, when available, are saved for the worst cases, leaving you to clean wounds with snow or a scrap of cloth, praying infection stays at bay. The battlefield is a frozen wasteland, a landscape of churned snow, shattered trees, and the scars of artillery. The 38th parallel is no longer an abstract line, but a reality etched into the earth, marked by trenches, barbed wire, and the craters of exploded shells. You move with care, always mindful of the mines hidden beneath the snow, their presence invisible but deadly. You've heard stories of men who strayed from the path. Their lives ended in a flash of fire and snow, the ground stained with their passing. You watch for signs, a patch of snow to smooth, a stick that seems out of place, but exhaustion blurs your focus. And sometimes your mind drifts to warmer days, only to snap back at the sound of a distant explosion. The waiting is its own burden, a quiet torment that weighs heavier than the cold. Most days, you're not fighting but holding the line, your eyes fixed on the horizon for any sign of movement. The enemy is out there, beyond the ridge, their trenches mirroring yours, their silhouettes faint against the snow at dusk. You've heard their voices on the wind, speaking in Korean, Chinese, or a language you don't know, a reminder of the shared humanity across the divide. The fear of an attack is constant, a knot in your chest that tightens with every unfamiliar sound. Will it come at dawn, when the light is thin and grey? At midnight, under cover of darkness? Will it be a barrage of shells or a silent rush of men with bayonets? You sleep in snatches, a few minutes leaning against the trench wall, your rifle cradled like a child, your dreams filled with the sounds of war-whistling shells, shouting men, the crack of rifles. Artillery is the war's heartbeat, its rumble a constant presence, sometimes distant, sometimes close enough to shake the earth. You've learned to read its sounds, to know when to duck, when to press yourself flat against the frozen ground. The shells leave craters wide enough to swallow a man, their edges jagged with ice, the air thick with the smell of cordite and churned dirt. Shrapnel hums through the air, sharp and deadly, and you've seen its work, men caught in the open, their lives extinguished in a moment, their bodies left to freeze in the snow. You don't dwell on these sights, but they linger, a quiet undercurrent to every task. You focus on the small rituals, cleaning your rifle, checking your gear, sharing a cigarette with the man beside you, its ember of fleeting warmth in the endless cold. These acts keep you grounded, keep you moving forward. The psychological toll is as heavy as the physical. Exhaustion is your constant companion, not just from lack of sleep, but from the weight of fear, the endless waiting, the uncertainty of survival. You've seen men break, not out of cowardice, but because the cold, the hunger, the dread become too much. They sit, staring at nothing, their eyes empty, their hands still, as if their minds have retreated to a place the war cannot touch. You try to reach them, sharing a story or a sip of water, but sometimes they're gone, lost to a despair you feel tugging at your own edges. You push it away, clinging to memories of home, a mother cooking rice in a small village, a wife waiting in a city apartment, a child's laughter in a sunlit yard. These images are fragile, but they anchor you, giving you a reason to endure. The days blur together, each one a repetition of the last. You wake, you eat what little you have, you check your rifle, you wait. You listen to the wind, to the distant guns, to the murmurs of the men around you. You share stories when you can, fragments of lives left behind a farm in Iowa, a fishing boat in Incheon, a market stall in Beijing. These stories are your currency, traded in the quiet moments between shelling. A reminder that you're not alone, that others carry the same burdens, the same hopes. But hope is a delicate thing here, easily crushed by the weight of the cold, the hunger, the fear. As night falls, the cold deepens, the trench growing darker, the stars hidden by clouds heavy with snow. You wrap your blanket tighter, though it does little against the chill. If you have a cigarette, you light it, watching the smoke curl upward, a fleeting moment of warmth in a world of ice. You think of tomorrow, another day in the trench, another day of waiting, of surviving. You don't dream of victory or glory, those are for men far from the front. You dream of a hot meal, a dry pair of socks, a night without the sound of guns. You dream of making it through one more day at the 38th parallel. And so, the rhythm of your life continues, a steady, unyielding cycle of endurance, shaped by the cold, the hunger, the ever-present threat of the enemy. But as we step away from the trench, its icy walls fading into the distance, let us lift our gaze to the broader sweep of the war, to the forces that brought you here, to the leaders and nations whose ambitions turned a peninsula into a battleground. Let us move gently into the story of the Korean War itself, a conflict that froze the world, its echoes reaching far beyond the 38th parallel. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast quiet landscape where the echoes of a distant war linger in the air, not as a shout, but as a soft murmur inviting you to step back into a time when the world held its breath. The Korean War, often called the Forgotten War, was not a fleeting moment of conflict but a profound struggle that reshaped nations, drew in global powers and left a peninsula forever divided. It began as a spark between two halves of a single land, but it grew into a fire that consumed millions of lives and set the stage for the Cold War's long shadow. Let us walk slowly through this story, not with the urgency of battle, but with the measured pace of history unfolding, a tale of ambition, sacrifice, and the quiet weight of decisions made far from the front lines. The year is 1950, and Korea, a peninsula steeped in centuries of tradition, stands divided. After Japan's defeat in 1945, the Allies carved Korea along the 38th parallel, an arbitrary line that split a people who shared a language, a culture, a history. To the north, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, led by Kim Il-sung, a young revolutionary forged in the crucible of anti-Japanese resistance, his vision shaped by Marxist ideals and Soviet support. To the south, the Republic of Korea, under Syngman Rhee, a scholar-turned-politician whose fierce anti-communism and American backing defined his rule. Both men dreamed of a unified Korea, but their dreams clashed, fueled by the growing rivalry between East and West. Kim, with his intense gaze and guerrilla roots, spoke of a socialist paradise, his voice carrying the conviction of a man who had fought in the mountains against imperial powers. Rhee, older, his face lined with the weight of exile and ambition, governed with a heavy hand. His regime marked by corruption, yet unwavering in its stand against communism. The 38th parallel was not just a line but a fault line, trembling with the tension of a world dividing itself. On June 25, 1950, that tension erupted. North Korean forces, armed with Soviet T-34 tanks and heavy artillery, crossed the parallel in a sudden, overwhelming assault. Imagine the Bredone stillness shattered by the roar of engines, the ground shaking as columns of tanks rolled south, their treads chewing through dirt roads, their guns trained on a sleeping nation. Seoul, the South's capital, fell in 3 days, its streets filled with the chaos of fleeing civilians, their belongings bundled in carts or carried on their backs. South Korean troops, undertrained and under-equipped, could not hold the line. Syngman Rhee's government abandoned Seoul, retreating to Bisan, a port city clinging to the peninsula's southeastern edge. The speed of the North's advance was staggering, their forces capturing nearly the entire peninsula by August, leaving only a small pocket of resistance around Bizen, known as the Pusan perimeter. Picture the scene within that perimeter, soldiers digging foxholes in the summer heat, their uniforms soaked with sweat, the air heavy with the smell of earth and gunpowder. Supply lines were stretched thin, rations were meager, and the constant thud of artillery kept sleep at bay. The defenders, a mix of South Korean conscripts and UN troops, mostly American, fought with a desperate tenacity. Knowing that to lose Bizen was to lose the war, the United States, under President Harry Truman, saw the invasion as a challenge to the free world. The Cold War was in its infancy, a delicate balance of power between the US and the Soviet Union, and Truman believed that inaction would embolden communist expansion. He turned to the United Nations, a young organization still finding its place, and secured a resolution to aid South Korea. 16 nations joined the effort, but the US provided the bulk of the force's soldiers, ships, planes, and a commander whose name carried the weight of legend, General Douglas MacArthur. MacArthur was a figure larger than life, his corncob pipe and aviator sunglasses as iconic as his strategic brilliance. A veteran of the Pacific, he had accepted Japan's surrender in 1945, and now he turned his attention to Korea. His presence was a reassurance to the troops, his confident stride a contrast to the uncertainty of the moment. But MacArthur was not content to simply defend. He planned a counterstroke, a move so bold it bordered on reckless. On September 15, 1950, UN forces launched an amphibious landing at Incheon, a port city west of Seoul, where the tides were among the highest in the world, making the operation a logistical nightmare. Imagine the scene: landing craft bobbing in the grey waters of the Yellow Sea, Marines gripping their rifles as they neared the shore, the distant boom of naval guns softening enemy defenses. The landing was a success, catching the North Koreans off guard, severing their supply lines, and allowing U.S. forces to recapture Seoul by the end of September. The momentum shifted and MacArthur pushed north, crossing the 38th parallel, driving toward the Yalu River, the border with China. Victory seemed close, the dream of a unified, democratic Korea within reach. But the war was about to change. China, under Mao Zedong, watched the advance with growing unease. Now, a revolutionary who had just won China's civil war saw the UN advance as a threat to his nation's security. The Yalu River was not just a border, but a line of defense, and MacArthur's approach alarmed Beijing. In October 1950, Mao committed the People's Volunteer Army, hundreds of thousands of troops who crossed the Yalu under cover of darkness, their movements silent, their bugles a haunting signal of their presence. The Chinese offensive was a shock, a tidal wave of men pouring through the mountains, overwhelming U.S. positions. Picture the chaos: American and South Korean soldiers expecting an easy advance, suddenly facing waves of Chinese troops, their shouts echoing through the snow-covered hills. The winter of 1951, the same bitter season we explored in the trenches, became a crucible. UN forces were pushed back, Seoul fell again to communist forces in January 1951, and the war settled into a brutal stalemate along the 38th parallel. MacArthur, undeterred, called for an escalation, even suggesting the use of nuclear weapons, a proposal that clashed with Truman's caution. The disagreement led to a dramatic break. In April 1951, Truman relieved MacArthur of command, a decision that sent ripples through the world. Imagine the quiet tension of that moment, a general's career ending not in battle but in a clash of wills, his departure leaving the troops to face the war without their larger-than-life leader. General Matthew Ridgway took command, a quieter figure, his focus on discipline and morale. Under Ridgway, UN forces stabilized the front, reclaiming Seoul in March 1951 and holding the line near the 38th parallel. The war became a grinding contest of attrition fought over hills with names like Old Baldy, Heartbreak Ridge and Pork Chop Hill. Imagine the soldiers moving through fog and mud, their boots sinking into the earth, their hands gripping rifles slick with rain. Each hill was a battleground, fought with grenades, bayonets, and sheer endurance, the ground won and lost in a cycle of blood and sacrifice. The cost was staggering. Thousands of lives for a few hundred yards of barren soil. The landscape scarred by craters and littered with the debris of war. Far from the front, peace talks began in July 1951 in the village of Panmunjom, a place as unassuming as the war was vast. Picture the scene. A simple tent, its canvas flapping in the wind. A wooden table where diplomats sat, their voices low, their arguments measured but unyielding. The talks were slow, mired in distrust as negotiators debated borders, prisoner exchanges, and the future of a divided Korea. The fighting continued, each side probing for advantage, while the talks dragged on for 2 years. Soldiers died in the shadow of those discussions, their lives spent on hills that would soon be forgotten. The human toll was immense, a ledger of loss that defies comprehension. By the war's end, over 2 million people, soldiers, civilians, men, women, children, had perished. Villages were reduced to rubble, their wooden homes consumed by fire, their fields trampled by tanks. Cities like Seoul and Pyongyang bore the scars of bombardment, their streets choked with debris, their skylines broken. Families were torn apart, some separated by the 38th parallel, unable to cross the line that now defined their lives. The war reshaped Korea, but it also reshaped the world. It solidified the Cold War's divisions, drawing a line between East and West that would endure for decades. The United States emerged as a global superpower, its commitment to containing communism solidified. China, under Mao, proved its strength, a new power asserting itself on the world stage. The Soviet Union, though never officially at war, supplied weapons, advisors, and influence. Its presence felt in every tank that rolled across the peninsula, every plane that streaked through the sky. The war ended on July 27, 1953, with an armistice, not a peace treaty, a distinction that carried the weight of an unfinished story. The guns fell silent, but the silence was heavy, filled with the exhaustion of soldiers, the grief of families, the uncertainty of a nation divided. The 38th parallel remained, now guarded by a demilitarized zone, a strip of land 2.5 miles wide, stretching across the peninsula, one of the most fortified borders in the world. Imagine the soldiers packing their gear, their faces etched with fatigue, their minds carrying memories of cold nights and endless battles. They went home, those who survived, to lives forever changed by what they had seen. The world turned its attention elsewhere, to new conflicts, new stories, and Korea's war faded into the background, a chapter closed but never fully resolved. The peninsula remained divided, its people living in the shadow of a conflict that refused to end. As we step away from the war's grand narrative, let us turn our gaze to the land itself, to the demilitarized zone that stands as a silent witness to the past. This narrow strip, untouched by time, holds secrets of its own tunnels carved in secret, relics buried in the earth and whispers of lives lost long ago. Let us walk there now, slowly, into a place where history lingers, where the ghosts of the war still speak in the rustle of leaves and the quiet of the night. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a silent, forbidden land, where the air feels thick with the weight of time, where every gust of wind seems to carry whispers from a past that refuses to fade. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, known simply as the DMZ, stretches across the peninsula like a ribbon of stillness, 2.5 miles wide, 160 miles long, separating north from south in a tense, uneasy truce. Born from the armistice of 1953, this narrow strip of earth is a paradox, a place where war's scars are softened by nature's touch, where relics of conflict lie buried beneath wild flowers, and where stories of the lost linger like shadows in the dusk. This is not a place of bustling life or vibrant cities, but a quiet wilderness, a sanctuary shaped by absence, where the echoes of the Korean War mingle with the calls of birds and the rustle of leaves. Let us walk gently through this strange, haunting landscape, exploring its secrets with a soft curiosity, letting the details unfold like a dream that carries you closer to sleep. The DMZ was created to keep two armies apart, a buffer zone meant to prevent the war from reigniting. But it has become something more, a time capsule, a graveyard, a haven. Picture a landscape of rolling hills, dense forests and quiet marshes, its borders marked by coils of barbed wire, concrete watchtowers, and the ever-present gaze of soldiers. No one lives here, not in the way we imagine life, yet the DMZ is far from empty. In the absence of human hands, nature has woven a tapestry of life, reclaiming the land with a fierce, quiet beauty. Imagine a deer moving through the tall grass, its steps light, its eyes catching the morning light. Or a red-crowned crane, its wings spread wide, gliding over a wetland where reeds sway in the breeze. These cranes, symbols of peace and longevity in Korean culture, have found refuge here, their mournful calls echoing across a land born of division. Black bears roam the forested hills, their tracks mingling with paths once trodden by soldiers. And the rare Amur leopard, a ghost of the wild, slips through the underbrush, its spotted coat blending with the dappled shadows. The DMZ has become an accidental sanctuary, home to over 6,000 species of plants and animals, many of which have vanished from the rest of the peninsula. Picture a field of wildflowers, their petals bright against the grey of a forgotten bunker, or a grove of pine trees, their needles soft underfoot, growing over the scars of artillery craters. This is a place where nature has asserted itself, softening the edges of war's destruction. Yet the past is never far away. Beneath the surface, the DMZ holds relics of the conflict, fragments of a time when this land was a battlefield. Imagine stumbling across a rusted machine gun, its barrel half buried in the earth, its metal flaking away under the weight of years. Picture a concrete bunker, its walls cracked, its interior dark and damp, the air inside heavy with the smell of moss and decay. These relics are scattered across the zone, remnants of outposts abandoned in the chaos of retreat, their sandbags now hardened into lumps of earth, their barbed wire tangled with vines. Each one tells a story, not of grand strategies or decisive battles, but of ordinary men who lived and died here, who waited in the cold, who carved their names into the walls in moments of boredom or fear. The earth itself is a keeper of secrets, hiding dangers that linger long after the armistice. Landmines, buried during the war, remain scattered beneath the soil, their locations lost to time, their threat undiminished. Soldiers patrolling the DMZ move with caution, their eyes scanning the ground for signs of disturbance, a patch of earth to smooth, a twig that doesn't belong. Imagine the tension of those patrols, the quiet crunch of boots on frost-covered grass, the knowledge that a single misstep could awaken a deadly past. The mines are a reminder that the DMZ is not just a place of peace, but a place of uneasy vigilance, where the war's legacy is etched into the very ground. Among the DMZ's most intriguing secrets are the tunnels, hidden passages carved deep beneath the earth, discovered years after the war's end. In 1974, a South Korean patrol noticed something unusual, a faint wisp of steam rising from the ground, a warmth that didn't belong in the cold autumn air. Digging revealed a tunnel, its walls smooth, its ceiling reinforced with concrete, wide enough for thousands of troops to pass through. This was no crude passage, but a feat of engineering, complete with electric lighting, ventilation systems, and rails for moving supplies. Imagine the shock of that discovery, the realization that North Korea had been digging beneath the DMZ, planning secret invasions long after the armistice. 3 more tunnels were found in the years that followed, each one deeper, longer, more sophisticated than the last. The largest, known as the Third Infiltration Tunnel, could have funneled 30,000 troops an hour toward Seoul, a silent threat hidden beneath the earth. Picture the soldiers exploring these tunnels, their flashlights casting long shadows, their footsteps echoing in the damp, confined space. The tunnels are now sealed, their entrance is guarded, but their existence lingers in the imagination, a reminder of the war's unresolved tensions, a testament to the lengths to which a divided nation would go. The DMZ is also a place of stories, tales that drift between history and myth, whispered by soldiers who stand watch in the long, quiet nights. Picture a young guard at a watchtower, his breath visible in the cold, his eyes scanning the darkness beyond the barbed wire. He hears a sound of faint rustle, a murmur on the wind down for a moment. He imagines a figure in the mist, a soldier in an outdated uniform, standing motionless before fading into the trees. These stories are not new. Since the armistice, guards on both sides have reported strange sightings, a shadow moving when no one walks, a voice calling out in a language no one speaks, the sound of footsteps on a path long abandoned. Some say these are the ghosts of those who died in the war, men who never found rest in a conflict that never truly ended. Others believe they are tricks of the mind, born of long hours in a place where the past feels so close. Imagine sitting by a fire with a group of soldiers, their faces lit by the flickering light. As they share these tales in hushed tones, each story adding to the DMZ's mystique. One tale speaks of a North Korean soldier seen near the border, his uniform tattered, his face pale, who vanishes when approached. Another tells of a South Korean guard who heard laughter in the night, only to find no one there. These stories, whether true or imagined, are part of the DMZ's fabric, a place where the line between the living and the dead feels thin. The DMZ is not just a relic of the war, but a keeper of older histories, a place where Korea's ancient past is preserved by accident. Archaeologists, working in rare moments when access is granted, have found traces of a Korea that predates the war by centuries. Picture a field near the border, the grass parted to reveal a shard of Celadon pottery, its green glaze catching the sunlight, a remnant of the Goryeo dynasty that ruled 1,000 years ago. Imagine uncovering the foundation of a village, its stones worn smooth by time, or a bronze dagger, its blade dulled but still bearing the marks of a craftsman's hand. These discoveries are rare, carefully catalogued, but they add a layer of depth to the DMZ, a reminder that this land was once whole, its people moving freely across mountains and rivers now divided. The DMZ's isolation has preserved these artifacts, protecting them from the sprawl of cities and the plow of farmers, making it a kind of archaeological sanctuary. The red-crowned crane, with its elegant wings and mournful call, is another link to Korea's past, a symbol of peace and eternity that has survived in this unlikely refuge. Picture the crane standing in a marsh, its reflection shimmering in the still water, its presence a quiet irony in a place born of conflict. The DMZ's ecosystem is a delicate balance, sustained by the absence of human interference. Yet it exists under constant threat. The mines, the patrols, the ever-present possibility of renewed conflict remind us that this sanctuary is fragile. A temporary pause in a story still unfolding. The joint security area within the village of Panmunjom is perhaps the DMZ's most human element. A place where North and South meet in uneasy diplomacy. Imagine a row of simple buildings, blue for the South, grey for the North, straddling the border, their doors opening onto opposite sides of the line. Here, soldiers stand face to face, their eyes meeting across an invisible divide, their postures rigid, their silence heavy. Diplomats gather in these buildings, their voices low, their words measured, discussing matters of peace and division in a place that embodies both. The air here is thick with history, with the weight of a war that ended but never resolved. Picture a table in one of these buildings, its surface worn from years of negotiations, its chairs holding the ghosts of countless talks. The DMZ is a place where the past and present coexist, where every step feels like a walk through time. Imagine standing at its edge, the air cool against your skin, the silence broken only by the call of a crane or the distant hum of a helicopter. You can feel the weight of history here, in the rusted relics, the hidden tunnels, the stories that linger in the air. This is a place that invites reflection, not on the grand sweep of battles or treaties, but on the human cost of division, the lives caught in a war that reshaped a nation. As we leave the DMZ, its mysteries fading like a dream, let us turn our gaze to the people who live beyond its borders, to the cities of Pyongyang and Seoul, where the same history has shaped to very different worlds. Let us step gently into their lives, exploring the daily rhythms of two societies, divided by ideology but bound by a shared heritage, their dreams woven from the threads of a wall that linger still. Imagine yourself drifting between two cities, separated by a mere 120 miles yet worlds apart. Their streets alive with the rhythms of lives shaped by the same history, but divided by the scars of a war that never truly ended. Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, and Seoul, the heart of South Korea, are twin reflections of a peninsula split by the Korean War, their people bound by a shared language, a shared heritage, yet living under the weight of contrasting ideologies. This is not a story of judgment or blame, but a gentle exploration of daily life, a dual diary that weaves together the ordinary moments of two societies, each navigating the legacy of a conflict that carved a nation in two. Let us walk slowly through the streets of Pyongyang and Seoul, first in the early 1950s, as the war's echoes linger, and then into the decades that followed, where the dreams of their people diverge like rivers from a single source. There lives a testament to the enduring power of history. In Pyongyang, picture yourself waking in a concrete apartment block, one of many erected in the years after the war, its grey walls stark against the pale light of dawn. You are a middle-class citizen, perhaps a clerk in a government office or a worker in a state-run factory, living in a city carefully rebuilt to embody the ideals of the democratic People's Republic of Korea. Your day begins early, stirred by the crackle of a loudspeaker outside your window, its voice steady, unyielding, broadcasting the latest state news, a patriotic song, or a reminder of the great leader's vision. The air carries the faint smell of coal smoke, a constant in a city where industry drives progress and you rise from a simple bed. Its frame wooden, its mattress thin but sufficient. Your apartment is modest, a small space shared with your family. Its walls adorned with a portrait of Kim Il-sung, his gaze calm but ever present, a quiet anchor in your daily routine. You dress in plain clothing, a grey jacket, sturdy trousers, or a dress of muted colors, the fabric practical, reflecting a nation still recovering from devastation. Breakfast is frugal, a bowl of rice porridge, perhaps with a side of kimchi, its spicy tang a small burst of flavor in a meal shaped by scarcity. You step outside, joining a stream of people moving toward work, their faces composed, their steps measured, as bicycles weave through the crowd and the occasional truck rumbles past. Carrying workers or crates of supplies, the streets of Pyongyang are wide, designed to inspire, lined with statues of revolutionary heroes and banners proclaiming unity, their red and blue colors vivid against the city's muted palette. Your workplace, whether a factory or an office, is a place of routine, where tasks are carried out with a quiet diligence. If you work in a factory, imagine the hum of machines, their rhythm steady, almost hypnotic. As you operate a loom or assemble parts, your hands moving with practiced ease. If you're a clerk, picture a desk piled with papers, the scratch of a pen filling the silence. Your work contributing to the state's grand plan. Lunch is a communal affair, served in a canteen where workers gather, eating bowls of noodles or rice with a thin soup. The conversation subdued, focused on the day's tasks or the latest state announcement. The day stretches long, and when it ends, you return home, perhaps stopping at a market to barter for potatoes or a bit of dried fish. The transaction's quiet. The price is set by the state. In the evening, you might attend a community meeting, where neighbors discuss local matters or listen to a lecture on the nation's achievements. The speaker's voice calm, reinforcing the collective spirit. As night falls, you sit with your family, perhaps listening to a radio tuned to a state broadcast, its signal faint but clear, or reading a book approved by the government, its pages worn from use. The city grows quiet, the loudspeakers silent, and you drift to sleep under a thin blanket. The weight of the day's routine a familiar comfort, the rhythm of your life shaped by the state's unyielding structure. Now, let us cross the invisible line of the 38th parallel and step into Seoul, a city pulsing with a different energy, a blend of chaos and ambition, its streets alive with the sounds of a nation rebuilding itself. Imagine waking in a small apartment in a bustling neighborhood, the clamor of street vendors drifting through your window, their voices mingling with the honk of buses and the chatter of passers-by. You are a worker, perhaps a clerk at one of the growing chaebol companies like Samsung or Hyundai, or a student cramming for exams, your life shaped by the promise of opportunity in a nation embracing capitalism. The air carries the scent of grilled meat from a nearby stall, a reminder of Seoul's vibrant street food culture. And you dress quickly, pulling on a Western-style shirt and trousers or a hanbok for a special occasion. The fabric a mix of tradition and modernity. Breakfast is simple but varied: a bowl of rice, a fried egg, perhaps a side of banchan, small dishes of pickled vegetables or tofu, their flavors bright and varied. You step into the streets, joining a crowd that moves with purpose, some hurrying to offices, others to markets or schools. The city is a patchwork of old and new. Wooden houses with tiled roofs, standing beside concrete buildings, their facades marked by the scars of war but bright with the promise of progress. If you're a worker, picture yourself in an office, the clatter of typewriters filling the air, or on a construction site where the sound of hammers and cranes signals Seoul's rapid growth. If you're a student, imagine sitting in a classroom, your desk crowded with books, your mind racing to keep up with lessons in math, history, or English, the language of opportunity in a globalizing world. Lunch is a quick affair, perhaps grabbed from a street vendor, a skewer of tteokbokki. It's rice cakes, spicy and chewy, or a bowl of kalguksu noodles in a warm broth eaten standing up. As you watch the city rush by, the day is long, but the evenings are vibrant, filled with possibilities. You might meet friends at a tea house, sipping barley tea and sharing stories, or head to a karaoke room where laughter and song spill into the night. Seoul's streets are alive after dark, lit by neon signs and lanterns, the air thick with the smells of grilled fish, roasted chestnuts, and the faint tang of soju. You return home late, your apartment small but cozy, its shelves holding a radio, a few books, perhaps a photograph of family members lost in the war. As you lie in bed, the city's hum fades, and you drift to sleep, dreaming of a future bright with possibility, yet tinged with the memory of a nation divided. In Pyongyang, the rhythm of life is steady, predictable, shaped by the state's vision of unity and sacrifice. Imagine a morning where you wake to the same loudspeaker, its message unchanged, urging you to contribute to the nation's glory. Your work is not just a job but a duty, each task a step toward the collective goal. Picture yourself in a factory, the air heavy with the smell of oil and metal, or in a school, teaching children to recite the principles of Judge, the state's philosophy of self-reliance. Your meals are simple, often the same day after day: rice, soup, a bit of pickled cabbage, but they sustain you, a reminder of the nation's shared struggle. The streets are orderly, the crowds moving in unison, their faces reflecting a quiet pride in their role. Yet there are moments of joy, small but real, a shared laugh with a co-worker, a child's smile, as they receive a new textbook, a rare evening where you gather with neighbors to sing folk songs, their melodies carrying memories of a career before the divide. In Seoul, life is a whirlwind, a mix of tradition and ambition, where the past and future collide in every street. Picture a morning where you wake to the sound of a radio playing a new pop song, its melody upbeat, a contrast to the war's grim memories. Your work is a means to an end, a step toward a better life, whether in an office where typewriters clack or a factory where machines hum with the promise of progress. Meals are a celebration of abundance, even in lean times. Street stalls offer gimbap, rolled rice wrapped in seaweed, or mandu, dumplings steaming in the cool air. The city is alive with energy, its markets crowded with vendors selling everything from silk to radios, their voices rising in a chorus of commerce. Evenings are a time for connection, whether at a cinema watching a new film or in a park where families gather, their laughter mingling with the sound of cicadas. Yet beneath the vibrancy lies a quiet grief, a memory of those lost in the war, of families separated by the DMZ, their faces fading but never forgotten. In Pyongyang, the state is ever present, its influence woven into every aspect of life. Imagine a day where you attend a rally, joining thousands in a plaza, your voice rising in a chant of unity, the air filled with the flutter of red flags. Your children learn songs praising the leader, their voices bright, their words memorized with care. Your free time is structured, spent in community activities or reading state newspapers, their pages filled with stories of progress and sacrifice. The city's architecture is monumental, its statues and buildings designed to inspire awe, yet there is a simplicity to daily life, a focus on the collective over the individual. In Seoul, individuality flourishes, tempered by the weight of tradition. Picture a festival where families gather, their hanboks bright against the autumn leaves, or a market where you haggle for a new radio, its static-filled music a promise of connection to the world. Your children study late into the night, their dreams tied to exams that promise a better future, their textbooks filled with stories of a career rising from the ashes. The city is a mosaic, its neighborhoods blending old villages with new skyscrapers, its people driven by a quiet determination to move forward, yet always aware of the border to the north, a line that separates them from kin. As the years pass, the divide deepens, yet the shared roots remain. In Pyongyang, you might hear a folk song, its melody hauntingly familiar, echoing tunes sung in Seoul. In Seoul, you might taste kimchi, its flavor a link to the north, a reminder of a shared culinary heritage. Both cities carried the weight of the war, its memory etched into their streets, their people, their dreams. In Pyongyang, life is a steady rhythm, a life of purpose shaped by the state, its days predictable but not without moments of warmth. In Seoul, life is a vibrant dance, a mix of chaos and opportunity, its days filled with the promise of tomorrow. As we leave these cities, their contrasts lingering like a soft melody, let us step back and reflect on the journey we've taken from the frozen trenches of the 38th parallel to the silent mysteries of the DMZ, and now to the divided lives of a single people. Let us draw this story to a close, weaving together the threads of a war that shaped a nation, its echoes still felt in the quiet of the night. As we draw the curtains on our journey through the Korean War, imagine yourself settling into a quiet moment, the world around you softening, the weight of history easing into a gentle hum. We've walked together through the frozen trenches of the 38th parallel, where soldiers endured the biting cold and the relentless rhythm of survival, their lives shaped by a struggle that asked everything of them. We've retraced the arc of a war that began as a spark between brothers and grew into a global conflict, pulling in nations and leaders, from Kim Il-sung's ambitions to MacArthur's bold gambits, leaving a peninsula forever changed. We've wandered the silent expanse of the demilitarized zone, a place where nature and war's relics coexist, where hidden tunnels and whispered stories of ghosts remind us of a past that lingers in the earth. And we've lived a day in the contrasting worlds of Pyongyang and Seoul, to cities bound by a shared heritage yet divided by the dreams they chase, their streets alive with the echoes of a people sundered by conflict. This war, often forgotten in the rush of history, was no mere footnote. It was a crucible, forging new alliances, deepening global divides, and leaving a nation split along an invisible line. Yet, as we reflect on the hardships, the cold, the loss, the separation, we also see the resilience of those who lived through it, the quiet strength of ordinary lives carried forward in the face of division. Picture the soldier in the trench, his breath clouding in the winter air, finding solace in a shared cigarette or a memory of home. Imagine the diplomat at Panmunjom, his voice steady as he navigates the fragile hope of peace. Envision the families in Pyongyang and Seoul, their daily routines a testament to endurance, their dreams shaped by the same roots yet reaching in different directions. The Korean War, with all its weight, reminds us of the fragility of peace, the cost of division, and the enduring human spirit that persists through it all. Now, as you lie in the comfort of your own time, far from the cold of the 38th parallel or the tension of a divided land, let these stories settle around you like a soft blanket. The past, with its struggles and its lessons, fades gently into the background, leaving only the rhythm of your breath, the quiet of the night, and the promise of rest. Let the weight of history slip away, carrying you toward sleep, where the echoes of the past become a distant, soothing murmur, guiding you into dreams as peaceful as the silence that follows a long journey's end.